Hey, y'all. Welcome to Ground Game Live. How you doing, Vic?
Not bad, Tim. Not bad. Good to be back up here live on the mic.
Yeah, we both had a couple of weeks off. It's yesterday nothing really important happened. Like I don't think we even need to talk about it, right?
Nope, not at all. That was obviously a bad joke, as we all know what happened, who got picked for the VP. As everybody gets wrapped up again in the electoral process of like the national electoral process.
Yeah.
And as we were chatting before, like most people don't even know who their council people are, who their assembly district people are in California. So I'm not with all that.
Yeah,
How
no,
you
were
man?
I gotta say, like, as much as I am hoping that Kamala and Joe Biden make it all the way to the White House and we get to like swap out like half of our politicians here in LA because like they're all planning on Biden appointments and like becoming senators through like Newsom's appointment. Yep. I won a $50 gift card to PF Chang's in 2016 because my friend just put on Facebook like, hey, $50 gift card up for grab, whoever guesses the electoral college spread the best. And like after more than 10 comments, it was all Hillary by whatever. And I was like, I'm going to be the spoiler here. And I was the only person who said Trump was going to win, and I won that gift card, which I never ended up using. But I have this feeling that, like, Eric Garcetti shouldn't start picking out drapes for his Senate office yet. Like, I feel like we got a long way to go, especially because we're looking at, like, 40 million evictions. And a lot of these evictions here in California have already started. You know, we're looking at 5 million households displaced, which is the entire population of LA plus 1 million people across the state. It's a lot harder to vote when you don't have a place to live. And it's a lot harder to justify voting for anyone when you don't have like a steady source of income or a steady way to feed your family. So the two guests we're going to have on a little bit later, Melissa and Kiran, are going to talk a lot about what we can do to build resilient communities and how we can get together to make sure that the people in our communities don't suffer unnecessarily. But before that, I think we're going to talk about LAHSA, right?
Yeah. We have Annie from Knock LA who's going to talk about an article she wrote.
Hey, Annie.
Hey, Annie.
Cool. Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being down. Of course, yeah. So what's the Knock rundown?
So essentially what happened over the weekend is that emails were released by Michael Fullhouse, his blog / Adrian Riskin, friend of the show. And what those emails did was corroborate something that like we in the organizing community have long known, which was that in January and February earlier this year, Ashley Bennett, who is a ground game organizer,
and one of our co-founders.
And yes, Ground Game LA co-founder. Important disclosure. But she had been organizing with some of the unhoused folks living in Echo Park Lake because they were sort of being threatened with eviction. And she was organizing with them and supporting them along with a bunch of other groups in the community. It was really powerful. And she was fired on February 3rd from her job at LAHSA, which is the LA Homeless Services Authority. And after that, she published an article on Knock, which explained that she was fired because Mitch O'Farrell believed that she was instigating anarchy in the park. And Mitch O'Farrell has long denied that he had anything to do with her firing, has long said that, you know, he said nothing about her. But what the emails that were released this past weekend clarify is that Joe Lazzarelli, who's the chief park ranger, was like hitting up Mitch O'Farrell's office as early as like January 9th to talk about Ashley. Yeah, so it's like, it's pretty obvious what was happening. And there's an email that was from like less than a week before she was fired, where Lazzarelli is complaining about Ashley to Mitch O'Farrell, to one of Mitch O'Farrell's office staff. And just after midnight that same day, just her business card, her LAHSA business card was sent in an otherwise blank email to Mitch O'Farrell's chief of staff, which sort of feels like they had the phone call. So yeah, it's basically just corroborating what we already know, which is that Mitch O'Farrell is a massive liar, and LAHSA is not serving the communities that it should be or claims to.
So this also isn't the only example we have of this, because we recently had another example of a LAHSA caseworker being fired, right? Can you talk a little bit about Christy Lovich's case?
Yeah, absolutely. So the timing of these emails coming out was just shortly after Christy Lovich, who was a supervisor at LAHSA, was fired. She was fired shortly after she circulated a petition that was demanding LAHSA disinvest from LAPD, which is something that is like desperately needed for the unhoused community, because LAPD being present with LAHSA turns situations violence. The cops always bring
That's
violence.
what the cops do. That's what they do.
Not just to mention, but having people with guns show up is inherently intimidating. Like having somebody who shows up with the means to kill you always ready does not make you feel comfortable in any sense.
And in the point of your life where, you know, you're at your most down, you don't need that intimidation from the state to try to uplift you. It's the exact opposite of what that organization is, quote unquote, supposed to be doing, you know?
Totally. And it really is just like intimidation and terrorism of these communities to make them feel uncomfortable staying where they are when they have nowhere else to go. And so Christy was circulating this petition to remove LAPD from LAHSA, and she was fired shortly after that. And she actually published, similar to Ashley, an open letter describing what had happened. And in that, she also said that she was explicitly told when she was working at LAHSA that Ashley was fired because Mitch O'Farrell requested it. So it's sort of like we have all of this evidence that, you know, LAHSA is, you know, not only ignoring the problem of homelessness and, I mean, really the crisis of homelessness, but they're actively making it worse by removing people from LAHSA who are, you know, have lived experience, who are advocates for the community, who are organizing with the community. And it's just, it's just an absolute tragedy. LAHSA needs a deep dive investigation.
So it seems to me, as I reach back into my memory, when Ashley was fired and we first broke this story for Knock and sort of like made the allegations against Mitch O'Farrell's office, the LA Times and other news media kind of pushed back against us and said, oh, that's not true. Mitch O'Farrell says they didn't do that. It didn't seem like we saw the same pushback on Christie's case. Can you maybe talk about the differences between these sort of superficially similar cases?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it just has to do with anti-Blackness. I think that, you know, Ashley as a Black woman is not someone who the city council tends to trust. And I think we see their anti-Blackness manifest in all sorts of ways. In fact, their anti-homelessness is fundamentally anti-Blackness. You know, 40% of the unhoused population in Los Angeles is Black, and that is a much larger proportion than the, you know, percentage of the population.
8% of the population in the county. So it's just like the facts don't lie, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, in the case of the media distrusting Ashley, that seems like anti-Blackness in terms of, you know, Mitch O'Farrell and the media covering what's happening at the lake or not, or refusing to talk to the residents at the lake when they requested a meeting with them. I think that is all sort of a structural anti-Blackness that permeates our city council. I mean, Ashley and Christy, at the end of the day, were both advocating for human rights, and they were fired because of it. So, cool city.
Council vampire Mitch O'Farrell.
Yeah, right. And liberal myth, the liberal democratic myth of, you know, they're out here trying to help people, trying to help working class people. Time and time again, the policies just do not bear it out. And it's evident, and it's in the emails, you know? We got receipts, Mitch. We got receipts.
And what kind of picture do those receipts paint of, like, not only city council, but of this bureaucracy in total?
I mean, it's funny because the park ranger, Joe Lozarelli, like, in the second email that he sends, it's like he misspells a bunch of stuff. He doesn't even spell LAHSA correctly. And it's just sort of, like, mind-boggling because you're watching this guy, like, complain about someone who's doing a tremendous amount of good for the community. On top of that, he said that she was lying to the community about whether or not they could stay in the park. And we have video evidence from, like, that time where Ashley is explaining very clearly to a park ranger that there's no available beds. So there's nowhere for these folks to go. And then Ashley very calmly de-escalating a situation that the park ranger then escalates by saying that he shows like the posted sweep notice. And he's like, oh, this isn't ours. And it Ashley and the folks in the park are like, it says right here it's yours. So it's sort of like, he then paints a picture that is exactly the reverse of what's actually happening when he writes his email to Mitch. So you can just really see like the horrible
what consequences has this park ranger faced?
I mean, none. He's the chief park ranger. He's still kicking. Like he's just like that.
Yep.
That's the absurd thing is these people just like maintain their power, even though they're doing stuff that is like clearly negative to the community and like openly corrupt, and we like.
And how come the New York Times didn't get these emails? I'm sorry, the LA Times. I'm still New York in the head, But yeah, LA Times, what up? How come they're not getting these emails? How come they're not breaking these stories?
I mean, that's the thing is like the reason Knock exists is because like the LA Times won't cover shit the way that they're supposed to. And we don't have any journalism in this city that is, I mean, except for Knock and like this show and these type of things that actually like talk about like the issues that the people living here care about. And instead they just are like much more happy to just reprint like propaganda and whatever comes in from the police scanner than like interrogate what what's actually going on in the city.
Mm-hmm. What's going on the ground.
So from here, what are we kind of looking at as far as like what Knock is looking into? What do we think this is going to lead to as far as some more reporting on not just LAHSA, but like the way that our council members are just straight up lying to us without any sort of shame?
Yeah, so Adrian Riskin, again, friend of the show. He last night did a CPRA, which is a California Public Record Act, CPRA, California Public Record Act training, where he sort of walked folks through on that Zoom, like how to request public records from our officials and like make them be honest with us, because they will never tell us the truth unless we force them to. So there were like 35 people on that call. So that's another 35 people who will be like running out and doing these requests. And, Adrian put out a PDF last year that I've been reading and it's really helpful. So, we can, I don't know, drop that in the chat or something. But that's like super useful. Anyone can do it. It's your right as a citizen. So get out there and request those documents from our elected officials.
That's awesome. That's good to know.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Annie.
Thank you, Annie.
No problem. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah.
Guys.
And of course, don't forget, you can always surf over to knock.la to catch all the amazing coverage that's going on, going up every day, every week, every month. We're just going to keep hustling it and hustling it for you.
Yep. That's what we do, bringing that media to LA and beyond.
Yeah. So moving on to our next guest, as we're talking about at the top of the show, LA is already in the midst of a huge food justice crisis. And one of the people on the front lines trying to alleviate the suffering out there is Melissa Acedera of Polo's Pantry. Here we see her being interviewed by Theo Henderson of We the Unhoused at LA Can, putting together meal kits. I'm really excited to introduce Melissa, one of the absolutely like most productive people just out there doing the work every single day, day in and day out. Melissa Acedera, welcome very much to Ground Game Live.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Melissa, how you feeling today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
hanging in there.
Cool. All right, to get started, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do and how did you start? The dark story, the happy story, go for it.
Well, I guess like the happy, well, it's not happy, but like, yeah, like kind of like the root of it is really my family. My grandmothers, all of them were all kind of sort of very entrepreneurial in the Philippines. So they all like either had or ran like some kind of food related business. So like one of my grandmothers ran like a canteen that like helped or serve like day laborers, like students. And then my maternal grandmother, like towards the later in her life, she had a sorry store, which is kind of like basically, it's just like, I would say it's just very much like a corner store,
Okay.
but it's just kind of like in a small little hut. Has various items that the neighborhood loves. And then another grandmother she also had like a kind of a food business just out of her home. So
Okay.
I was really kind of surrounded by that, as well as my dad too was a really good cook. My brother too is a chef. So like everyone around me is just like really incredible at food. So yeah. So I think that's sort of like the lighter version. The darker version is really more recent in my activism. Kind of really seeing families out there. Just the families that I'm seeing out there. There are, I serve some families who have squeezed themselves in a single room. About 10 of them in a single room. I see families with young children in RVs, families with young children in tents, and one of them actually is in Skid Row. So that's the dark part. And unfortunately, I feel like that's going to continue and actually even get worse, which is why my work. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, over the last couple of years, we've seen the point in time count get progressively worse. And that was before COVID.
Yep.
Obviously, with COVID as the most important thing going on right now in terms of housing, food security, all of our kind of basic economic issues, how is that affecting your work? How is it, changing what you're doing and how many people you're trying to help?
Well, it's really like I'm kind of concerned about that because I feel like my work just completely exploded since COVID. I wasn't expecting this growth rate, to be honest. I'm doing things right now that I wasn't planning to do like 5 years from now, which is also kind of great in a way, just because the need is there and I have to learn. Like just really like every day it feels like you have to build a new system, to be honest. Things are so up in the air with the food system that it's really exhausting to kind of like essentially trying to reinvent the wheel all the time. But I feel like there are just so many people in the industry who really just want to push us forward. And I'm grateful that Kiran is also with me tonight, just because she's also doing something that is very, very necessary. Our work is similar. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. My apologies.
I'm just saying like I feel like a lot of the food people I talk to are very concerned, and honestly we're scared of the for the other shoe to drop, essentially. Just essentially waiting for the economy just to completely just tank. Yeah, exactly.
I was hoping you could give us just some numbers as far as like how many people you're delivering to now versus how many people you're delivering to 6 months ago before COVID, just to sort of like get some firm idea of what we're talking about.
Ooh. Well, I recently firmed up an amazing partnership with Every Table, and so 6 months ago, I would say I was serving. I don't know, about 400 a week. The other week we moved about 2,000 meals. So it's growing. It's growing. It's and I'm frankly it's just gonna keep going. And sometimes I'm almost like, like I'm just thinking of when am I gonna have a chance to rest. I don't, honestly. I can't stop right now.
I think we all feel that way.
Yeah. Me personally, I got work kicking back up, and I thought I was just a full-time activist during these 3 months and just doing mutual aid and everything else, and now I have work on top of that, and it's like, when is the rest?
There's none.
There's
none, and I feel like with the food with food justice, you just essentially have to you know, like there's this whole kind of conversation right now too, where I'm also involved with the community fridges that you see popping up.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
a lot of sort of like food justice folks have kind of criticized it, saying that, you know, I get it, because the Charitable Food Network, I guess in a way kind of works counterproductive to actually changing, you know, like actually really hitting systemic changes in the food system, where we can actually have equitable, like, you know, food access for all, you know, all, just everyone, all communities, right? Especially Black and Brown. But they're saying, because, you know, like the fridges really kind of are sort of representatives of sort of like how charitable networks like the big ones like Feeding America or just huge food banks, their model is very much like corporate style. So it's essentially like pushing out food that isn't informed by the community. But what they don't know, especially just kind of being behind the scenes about it, the fridges in New York were actually like developed by an anarchist collective.
Yeah.
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 So the ones that you see popping up in the Bronx and Brooklyn really were like they're informed by the community. The community knows about them. The community has the say in what goes in them. And that's really also what we're doing as well for the LA fridges. And, you know, we definitely want people to feel like it's theirs, to have ownership of this. And so I feel like the future of food, especially in LA, I hope is going to be a lot of that. A lot of the communities taking more ownership in how they can get food into their communities. They can dictate, you know, the access that they have, and that's really kind of what I'm hoping, or at least the work that I'm doing can lead to. It's real food sovereignty in a lot of different areas. Just freedom. So to me, it's like liberation. So
yeah, I love it.
I think you flagged a really interesting point there, where we're seeing some real failures of our institutions on multiple levels.
Yeah.
What do you think they need to do, like on a larger macro scale? What kind of changes do we need in the food chain and the food supply chain to be able to meet this need for the long term?
Well, honestly, I feel like it has a lot to do with kind of taking out like the middleman. Basically having real access for communities to you know, to work with farmers.
Excuse me, real quick. Wouldn't somebody say like the middleman is where the profit comes in?
Yeah.
This is the middleman, right?
Right, exactly.
So profits
now,
or people or I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that's it, right? Like every industry has a middleman that basically, essentially, always benefits from, you know, from basically kind of like being the bottleneck of, you know, of resource. And so what I feel like what my work hopes to address is that I wanted to show really like our electeds too, that, you know, that you don't have to push this like really, you know, like just terrible food just because it's there. I think I do my due diligence to make sure that like the food that goes to our unhoused are healthy and stuff that we would eat. So that's really kind of really a huge thing for me, is that we can basically create the model, and to show them that it works. So
yeah, we need to show these electeds that it could come from the community.
yeah,
Like, no, that's the main point of activism.
Yeah, and I really like a lot of my work is informed by a lot of unhoused leaders out there, like Theo, who really advises my work all the time. Harvey, who's an El Pueblo, he's also, I believe, a DSA member and Street Watch member, so he also informs my work a lot. And so I'm led by the voices that need to be heard. And so I think, to me, I hope that people will do that, because for the solutions really will come from the people that we that we work with, that we serve. It shouldn't be us coming into a neighborhood thinking that, oh yeah, I can have X amount of food or whatever and dictate that to people. That's not how we come to solutions. For real liberation to happen is you ask the folks deeply affected by it, how do we change this? How has it worked for you? How have you survived 15 years out here? Tell me how you've done this.
Yeah. They have resources.
And
they have resources on how to survive in the system. They would know. The most marginalized of us know how to get by on the least. And if we need help to try to change the whole fundamental structure of this thing, those people have the answers, literally.
Exactly. And so that's what I try to evangelize in my work is you shouldn't feel like you can come into a space and feel like you're saving people. You're there to uplift them, to basically really empower them to feel liberated. So
for folks who want to get involved, what are ways to help? Like donations, obviously, but are there like the ability for people to put in some sweat equity, some like weekly events where they can like actually put together their meals to get these on the ground skills? Like, how do you want people to support you?
Right now I created a program with my partners EX. It's called Homie Made Meals. Basically it was a way for us to address how people were basically sheltered in place and how they could still contribute to helping others. And so we created basically a network of cooks and partnering them with drivers. And so we basically have all these homemade meals that we have been supplying to Street Watch, K-Town for All, SELA, LA Can. And it's just incredible. People have been the team behind it is amazing. Like frankly, the work I did was really help build structure, design the program, but there's an incredible team behind it that runs our operations, runs the day-to-day. They're fucking smart. They're so smart, and I'm so grateful that they're just amazing. I'm just really, really like always in awe of the people I get to work with. So shout out to Alex, Ray, Kyle.
Shout out.
Right, Sonia, Jenny, just the EX crew. You guys just are my hearts. I love you guys so much. They basically like they're the engine for that program. Also to my team members, Byron, and I'm just giving a shout out to everyone.
Yeah, might as well.
Polo.
That's why we're here.
Polo's people. I mean, I obviously like I'm the face and I speak and it's just really in my activism. But Polo is a community, and that's really what I hope for it to continue. I don't put my face on my Instagram just because I feel like at some point I'm not going to be doing it anymore. I want the community to run it, and I feel like as I think in leadership you have to be able to step away from something, and have it just be have it run, have the community take care of it. So so that's it. So shout out to everyone who there's just a whole community out there. I love you guys. So
you rock.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you and then we'll have you back shortly when we have Kiran on. But this has been like really enlightening, Melissa. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
It's definitely my pleasure to be here. So and I love the work that you guys do. Like honestly, like I love Knock, I love Ground Game. It's just I've learned so much from our coalition, and I keep telling people I keep telling people in my family, like, I'm grateful I get to do this work with just this incredible coalition of people, So
yeah, awesome. I know I feel the same way. Like everyone that we get to meet and to work with, I learn so much, and I'm continually inspired. And it's not just a matter of like we're all hustling real hard. We're watching out for each other, and we're taking care of each other, and we understand like we're gonna make it through this together because of each other, not in spite of each other.
Yes,
it doesn't feel corporate.
No, it isn't. And I want to also kind of add to what Annie said about Christy and Ashley. I will have a quick little story about Ashley. The first time I met Ashley was she was running the Echo Park. It was an Echo Park like emergency shelter, like during the wintertime. I literally was coming from like a K-Town for All, like we were doing like a Thanksgiving thing. And then I ran over there to drop off food. I'd never met Ashley before. And so I met her and she just blew my mind because she was like, walking me around the space, and I just saw how deeply devoted she was to the work. And so we exchanged numbers, and from there I was like, God, that's like the best LAHSA worker I've ever met. Like, she was the unicorn. I think all like this, I literally was like, God, she's incredible. Like, she was just beautiful and smart and just like really compassionate. And so I just was like, God, I hope they're all like this. And so, you know what I mean? But like,
one day.
Yeah, hopefully. So that's the goal. But I love Ashley so much. So
thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right. Well, we will see you very shortly, Melissa.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
All righty. Well, that was great. And I think it's a good lead into our next interview with Kiran Wali, who runs LIFEKIT LA, which does sort of similar work, but is a little bit different. And they've had some exciting new developments recently. So welcome to the show, Kiran Wali from LIFEKIT LA. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Kiran.
Hello, Kiran.
Oh, you got to unmute.
I'm sorry. I've been on Skype.
No, you're good.
Thank you. But yeah, thanks so much. It's so great to be here and chat with you all today.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. So I guess, kind of to get started, tell us a little bit about LIFEKIT, about what it is that y'all are doing, and kind of like some of the exciting stuff that's been happening with y'all recently.
Okay, there's a lot there to cover. So LIFEKIT, just to give you a little bit of background, we actually started in 2015. That December, it was a really wet, cold December, and there was just, a group of friends that we were walking by unhoused people every day, and we realized we were becoming really numb. And that kind of happens, right? When you see the same people every day that are asking you for a quarter every day, and you're just like, I'm on my way to work, put your shades down, just keep walking. And we didn't want to do that. We were like, there's got to be a better way to just feel a sense of community, even with people that are unhoused, and not just ignore them and tune them out. So we started just collecting stuff from our companies, from our neighbors, our friends, and we were putting them in backpacks to help people with that really cold winter. Just, beanies, socks, trash bags, all types of things to keep their stuff dry, keep them warm. And then from that, it just kept happening. And the lawyer incorporated us, and we became a 501c3. And here we are now, totally by accident. Be careful what you do.
I mean, I got to say, Ground Game has a very similar origin story. Like, we just kind of stumbled into like, oh God, we're an org now.
Yeah, got to be careful where you set your intentions, because you might end up running a nonprofit. And so yeah, I guess fast forward to now, we were pretty much just mainly focusing on helping unhoused people, getting kits together, figuring out what they needed, distributing them mainly in Skid Row, East Hollywood, Koreatown. And that was kind of our main focus, and it completely volunteer run. However, with COVID hitting, we realized all of a sudden the demand and the need for so many things became so much more serious. And we actually had people just giving us money to do things like laundry. Like, I literally had someone show up with hundreds of dollars. Like, we raised all this money for you guys to help people with laundry. And I was like, we don't help people. What do we do with all this money? And then we were supposed to be like social distancing. So I was like, I don't really know what to do. And then, with the food scarcity issue, we just kept hearing so many people struggling with the food issue. And we had so many partners that had an abundance of food. So we had this really interesting situation where we had some people overflowing with food, and some people that were like, we have no food. We don't know where our next meal's coming from. We lost our jobs, our business is closed. And so we kind of just almost were forced to, put all these things together in a big pot. And we came up with the LIFEKIT Bodega, which, yeah. And I personally am really passionate about, just in my personal life, just, plant-based, healthy eating, having access to fresh food, staying away from a lot of processed food, things like that. So we wanted to take all that fresh produce and we put it in a space that wasn't being used because a business was shut down due to COVID. So we're like, let's take over, let's turn it into a bodega. This was during the first shutdown. We thought it would be really temporary. We're like, let's just see what happens when we put free food in a place and let people shop for it.
Wow.
So that was another thing is we had like no plan. We got this up and running in like 2 weeks. But the other thing was we wanted people to just like choose what they wanted. We didn't want to just give people like boxes of stuff and assume that they wanted like all these canned things. And a lot of the things in I worked a lot in food banks, just volunteering throughout the years. And a lot of the things are really random. It's like, here's the box of cornflakes and some canned peaches and some boneless chicken. And it's like, what do you do with those things? Like, if that's all you have, like, you can't really make a meal out of that. So we're like, why don't we give people, maybe 50 SKUs to choose from and a bunch of fresh produce, and we'll let them pick out what they want. And what we found was it's just an interesting social experiment. You would think that people would go in there and just raid the place, and that didn't happen at all. People were so selective about what they would take. They just grabbed the things that they needed, and we didn't even put limits on anything. When people would come in and say, how much can we take? We'd say, take what you need, and we'll be here next week. So basically just take what you need for a week if you're coming back next week. And we found people were very courteous and very considerate of, their neighbors, and were just taking what they needed. And so we always have an abundance at the bodega. And it was something that was only supposed to last maybe 5 or 6 weeks. And we conveniently had the bodega right next to a laundromat. So one day, convenient. So one day we'd be doing, open, come in, do your groceries. And then the next day we were just right next door in the laundromat, like paying for everybody's laundry during set hours. So people line up, we have them go in kind of one at a time to do their laundry. And then we would we had soap sponsored, we had the laundry sponsored, and dryer sheets, everything. So we kind of just took care of all of that. That was interesting too. We had a lot of senior citizens come in. They literally wait for us. They look for us. They ask us when we're going to be there. We had a lot of dads coming in. I've never seen so many dads doing laundry, and it's because they didn't want their wives coming in and getting sick. They were afraid their wives, their kids were going to get exposed to COVID. So I found a lot of dads doing laundry for their families, and they weren't working, so they're like, may as well go wash all the baby clothes. And so that's been pretty interesting. A lot of garment factory workers, a lot of lower income families, working class. A lot of them are still working and are still struggling to make ends meet, just for a number of reasons. It's just hard out there right now.
So y'all are like doing anarchy, basically. You know what I mean? Like having people reimagine the way things are. No, I'm dead serious.
Yeah,
this is like people come in and you could just pick and choose what you want, and it doesn't get rated. It just they'll be back. We'll be here next week, and everyone gets that. They get that you're here to help, and it's a community thing. It's fascinating.
It's actually been really. It's funny that you call it anarchic. It's not, I guess that's not how you would think, like how I originally would think of it, but it's been very mentally like deconstructive, I guess, because I was like, this can't work, in my head. I already kind of told myself, like, this can't be a working model. But once we realized it worked so well, we actually, we started going to the second shutdown. The numbers were increasing. Our funding for that first, initial round went away. We actually just signed the lease and opened our own location. So now we're permanently, well, for the next year at least, have our own space. We have a LIFEKIT space. The bodega is there to stay now for the next year at least. So the model worked, believe it or not, and it's going to continue to work for about another year or so.
So there's something that you mentioned that I found interesting, because we've been running the mutual aid network, obviously, and like our inventory operation was out of the ground game office. And as much as I appreciated the donations we were getting, some of it was really random, weird stuff. Because I don't think people think very hard about what a donation actually means to people. How do you bridge that gap so that a donor understands someone who's living on the street or somebody who's food insecure isn't just happy to get any food, that they're a human being with preferences and culture identity and all of that stuff? Like, how do we get people to think more holistically when they give?
That's an interesting question. So, the LifeKit space has become a distribution hub for so many organizations that nothing really goes to waste in there. And I'm really kind of vigilant about turning the product pretty quickly. So everything that goes in gets turned within the month, but usually in a couple of weeks. And we don't really, I guess, have an issue with what people are donating because, well, first off, from a lot of the food banks that we get food from, we make sure that we're getting the things that people want. And so it's been the first 5-6 weeks were really experimental. I realized, okay, they don't like canned beans. They like dry beans in bags. They don't like wheat pasta. Nobody likes that, apparently.
It doesn't cook right. It never makes good pasta.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
Not popular at the bodega, so I have one here. Anyways, but rice, they love bagged rice. That flies off the shelves. So it's just been more of sourcing the right things. And then when things come in that don't move as quickly, we have distribution partners that will go move it to places. I mean, everybody needs this stuff right now. It's a matter of finding the people that need it and getting it to them. And so it may not be our bodega peeps. It may not be the unhoused people, but somebody is always willing. I just have to put the shout out on Twitter. Like,
awesome.
Come get this. And someone will come pick it up, or if we need something, someone will come drop it off. So yeah, it's been a great social experiment, honestly.
Awesome. Well, we have a question from the chat. Vincent K42 is asking, are y'all going to expand to different parts of the country, maybe Houston?
I'm from Houston. That's funny. So the idea actually was to kind of pilot this. And this is something that I think Melissa and I have been talking a lot about, just, as being a part of this mutual aid network, as well as with some of our other partners, is how do we turn this into a replicable model? Because honestly, we need the bodega model, and the use of the word bodega is very intentional. If you know what a bodega is, it's not just a liquor store. It's very important.
Get your blunts there too. You got to get your blunts too at the bodega.
Also important, but not really why we chose the name bodega. But the area that we set the bodega up in actually had a lot of markets that don't operate anymore. And when they did operate, they were extremely pricey. They were expensive. And so even if people could shop there, it was very cost prohibitive because of the real estate that it was sitting on. And then they eventually went out of business anyway. So the people that are sitting there, they don't really have access to food. I mean, they can't walk to a big grocery store because a lot of them don't have cars. They're working class. They take buses. They have huge families, sometimes households of 4 to 6 people on average. And how do you shop for that many people when you can't get to a local corner store, when you can't, drive to a grocery store? I don't think a lot of people think about this, but that's the reality for a lot of Angelenos. And I think if we had bodegas on every corner that we could shop at, it might actually, a lot of us might not need cars. Like, where are we really driving to if we're near a metro station? So it was very intentional. The bodega, giving people the choice to go in there and shop and choose what they want. I really hope that this model is something that we can replicate. And yeah, the intention is definitely to get it out there. I hope anyone who's listening and is interested in the model, it's not as hard as it looks. We had no plan. I never wrote a business plan.
Yeah.
We just kind of did it. I don't know why someone let me sign a lease to do this, but they did. Whatever, it must be easy. So do it. That's my advice. If I have any advice, just if you see an opportunity, there's a lot of opportunity right now, just do it. We can help you.
That's how I got here.
Yeah, no, I think that's a through line to the Ground Game Live kind of experiment that we're doing here. Is when we talk to folks like you and Melissa, it's like, how did you do this? Why'd you get into this? And they're like, I just stumbled into it. I wanted to make a difference. I saw something I wanted to change. And we contrast that with these bureaucracies that are funded to hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars a year, and aren't effective. What would you like to change in these massive bureaucracies that are currently not working? What do you think they need to do differently?
Oh boy.
Small question.
Oh, where do I start with that? Oh gosh, I could go off. My brain is spinning. There's just so many things I could say about that. But I mean, that's a fundamental problem with so many things, even with our healthcare system. I mean, I could just go on a rant about the layers that have caused so many problems. I don't want to be really negative though. I think the thing that we can, because there's a lot of opportunity here, and there's a lot of things that we can do and spin this in a positive way. I think if we focus on the fact that this pandemic is showing us what a breakdown and how many holes are in the system and how things are not working, the way our healthcare system is set up is not set up for a public health crisis at all. If you lose, all these people lost their jobs. If your job is what your health insurance is contingent on, how do you handle a public health crisis? You fundamentally can't. There's no centralized real, authority. We have all these. Anyways, we're not supposed to be talking about the health insurance industry, but it's just one example of the breakdown that we're seeing. And we have an opportunity to address that now. It's like blaring red flags everywhere. And with our food too, like before the pandemic, we had 40% of our food never going to a table. Like people just weren't eating it. 40% went to food waste. That was before the pandemic. Now we have farmers pouring cow's milk out. We have them burying potatoes that they grew. They're not getting paid for them, and we're not getting them into food banks. And there's people that are super food insecure. We had something like 11 to 12% of people into 2018. That's like something like 37 million people, I think, that were food insecure before the pandemic. And now it's gotten so much worse, and it's going to get even worse. I'd hate to sound alarmist. I feel like I am. I meant to be positive, but these are opportunities for us to rethink the system, for us to put in things like community bodegas. These are opportunities for all of these mutual aid networks that have just, partnerships that have formed, teaming up. I mean, it's been really such a beautiful experience for me personally, because I've been able to see what's possible outside of these structures that have failed. Yes. And now that the structures have failed, it's like prime time. Let's get in there. Let's just redo it. Let's rework it. It's like people can't really stop us right now, because who's going to stop you from giving people food? Who's going to stop you from solving people's healthcare issues right now? Sorry, I'm like literally ranting. So if you want me to wrap it up.
That's exactly what we're here for. But I was going to say, when we historically kind of look at revolutions, we don't see those happening when things are going okay-ish. People can kind of buy the illusion that things are working. It's when the cracks in the system cannot be ignored that we can come in and swap that stuff. So the fact that you see what we're entering into as an opportunity is an amazing way to reframe that, because there is going to be pain and there is going to be suffering. We can do something to help alleviate that and to build something better. One of my favorite Simpsons words, the Chinese have the same word for crisis as opportunity. Crisis-tunity.
Yes. But I mean, the thing is, we have to think of it that way. We have to. It's the only way we're going to stay sane. It's the only way we're going to power through a really hard time, because it's fucking hard. It is staying, even if you're still working, it's hard. If you're not working, it's hard. Because it's just lonely and it's frustrating, and you're watching, the future's so uncertain. Like, we just don't know what's going to happen. And the only way to really power through this is community. I'm going to say that. That's a huge cornerstone for LIFEKIT Dignity through community. I have my nice little logo there. That's nice. But basically, that was the whole point, was to bring the community together to take care of each other. And I think that's why we've just been thriving during this time, because it really was our mission and our purpose. And that is actually the solution to the shit we're going through right now. So, so community, opportunity, I mean, just go do it, guys. Join an org, find your community, find your people. Just go do the work. You don't need a business plan. I went to business school, and I did not have a plan for any of this. So
all right. So let's bring Melissa back in this conversation.
Oh, wait. Before we do that, sorry, Melissa. Kiran, real quick, how can people get involved, make donations to you? Like, what's the best way for them to support you?
Sure. So, gosh, so many great ways to support. Join our community. Be a part of the LIFEKIT community. Hashtag LIFEKIT community. That's pretty much what that is. You can shop at the bodega if you need supplies. That's a great way to be a part of the community. If you need help, you're more than welcome. Tell your friends about it. Share our stuff. Like our stuff on social media. We do have a crowdfunding campaign going on right now to help keep us open through the end of the year, and we're almost there. I think we hit like 26K. We need 30K to stay open till December. So if you want to help us close the gap, please Venmo us at LIFEKITLA.com, or sorry, at LIFEKITLA, or you can go to our website at LIFEKITLA.com/donate. You can also sign up to volunteer. It's a totally community-run bodega, community-run laundry program, community-run, and assembled hygiene and life kits that go all over the city. If you want to get down on any of that, it's super fun. You can come stop by the bodega, volunteer with us one day, join the community. Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now we're going to have Melissa back for real. Sorry about that, Melissa.
No worries. No worries. That was amazing. Thanks, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the
Yeah.
question I wanted to ask, since we have you both on screen, kind of a huge meeting of the minds, what do you want to see in 5 years? Like, where are organizations like yours going? Where would you like to see them go? And how would you like to see them build community power?
Do you want to go first, Karen?
Sure. So I think, I think something that Melissa and I talked about, so I think this might be her answer too. I think we're going to see a shift in the way that the food distribution model is going to look. And I think organizations like mine and Melissa's really need to turn into, stable parts of the economy almost. Because we are looking, we need the people that are now, we have people working for us full time that are unemployed, essentially, doing this work. Yep. And we're going to have to start seeing a way to reallocate resources and funding to pay people to redistribute food. So the food distribution model is really going to change. The way people are getting paid to do the work is really going to change. Organizations like mine and Melissa's are not going to be volunteer organizations anymore. They're going to be essential parts of the community,
yes.
Just every community,
yes.
And the economy. That's my answer, Melissa.
No, I'm glad that we talked about that, because really, for me, that's how I see, that's where I see the food system going. In 5 years, hopefully, Polo's Pantry and LIFEKIT no longer exists. That we become this sort of, again, like very, that's the ideal. Like in an ideal world, the stuff that we're doing shouldn't be fucking done. Like if the government actually were doing their jobs, we wouldn't have to do this. Like that's just how it is. And so we hope that LIFEKIT and Polo's Pantry will become sort of like these pods of like job creation, so that like that we can really essentially get some funding in, so that we can create jobs so people can like really like lift themselves up during this time. But I was also texting with my very good friend Kat Kim. Hi Kat. She's a founder of Acedera. I love her so much. She and I essentially like almost every day we support each other so much in this work, and really I'm so happy that she and I are doing this together. But she also wanted me to remind everyone that, again, with our coalition work, this is why we have to hit the ground running with keeping our electeds accountable. We have to make sure that we're just on their ass every single fucking day, because clearly they're not giving enough protections for us. They're not giving enough, even in food, to be honest. There's not even enough. Kiran and I and so many other organizations are really kind of doing the work. The Charitable Food Network is just, there's no infrastructure for the kind of work that we're doing. Like we're essentially learning on the spot how to like just build this network of trying to get food to people. And so it's really like I'm grateful that our coalition is just really just hammering all this home, and we have to work together to be able to like keep, like as Pete White said, just we're gonna get the whole bag. We're gonna fucking get everything. We're gonna not gonna stop until our communities have what we want. And so I am ready to do the work in the food space. Karen's here.
Wow. Yeah, y'all are really blowing my mind right now. Like just the whole reimagining of this idea, what's going on in this space as being morphed into what the government should be doing is like beyond mutual aid. It just is.
Yeah,
I don't even have words to formulate it.
Yeah.
Honestly, this isn't new. Like I'm gonna like pull out my like weapons here. So basically, I've been reading this. So like Black Panther Party. Okay, like every time I talk about food justice work, I think people don't like think about how food programs came to be. And in the 60s, especially in 69, when the Black Panthers actually like did the free breakfast for children, they they basically embarrassed the shit out of the government because they were able to go into different communities and essentially like form like just this whole network so quickly to be able to feed thousands of children. And so the fact that they were able to prove that to the government essentially like forced the government to create WIC, which is basically where like, you know what I mean? So that stuff, like, I want people to really like, this isn't new. Like the civil rights era, there were so many things that happened during that time, and so I've been reading so much on that because there were reasons why they were fighting so much just for change. And so I feel like we're in that moment again, and it's really important for us to understand that history, understand how these programs came to be. And so the only way we can shift that narrative is to show them, hey, this model works, and we're able to feed this many people. How the fuck can't you guys do that? Like, why aren't you doing that? You know what I mean? We don't have $150 million. You know, Kiran and I are working on like whatever
shoestring. We're bootstrapping.
But give them the $150 million. Like any government bureaucrats watching this, just cut them a blank check. It'll be great. But actually, I wanted to transition a little bit here. So in Mutual Aid LA, you know, one of the things we're doing with that is we want it to be political education as much as mutual aid and sort of charity and getting people what they want. And you've kind of alluded to this. The political education is part of these projects. That was part of the Black Panthers project.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what that looks like for you. Is it just voting? Is it just showing up and yelling at Mitch O'Farrell? Like, what does political education mean at this time and place?
Oh, wow, that's huge. Honestly,
like,
yeah, it's a great question. Like
I spent a lot of money studying philosophy at USC, so I tend to think it's big.
Honestly, the policy and education thing, like I have to like revert to like just my heroes, my personal heroes, like Jane, Mike Dickerson, you know, okay, like just the homies in K-Town for All. As I think I keep saying this, and as I think when I started to organized with K-Town for All, my work completely changed as well. Like Jane and Mike and Sharon and everyone in K-Town made me a better food justice advocate because I learned from them how policy work, like how all this other stuff. Because honestly, like if you asked me 4 or 5 years ago, I don't know who the fuck the council members were. I was like, you know what I mean? Like Mitch O'Farrell, what? Like I really didn't care. Because I was just so in like public health, food, like just really this very like very narrow, like, but because since organizing with, you know, like Services Not Sweeps and everyone just has really informed so much of my work, and I've been able to evolve in that way. So my lane is food. So I just learn from the experts like Jane and Mike. So
I do also just want to add that like that food is so political.
It is,
and people don't really think about that. And I get a lot of shit for preaching about, I mean, you know, when you're like a plant-based human, everybody loves shitting on
Shout out for you to that one, because like
But the thing is, you know, the food that you eat is so political, especially in a country like America where food policy is the reason you have so many fast food restaurants in low-income neighborhoods. Food policy is the reason that we have food deserts. Food policy is the reason for so many of the inefficiencies. People think it's like a coincidence or, you know, this is what, you know, we want liquor stores on every corner in our neighborhood. Like there's a lot of policies that go behind everything that you see around, you know, the obesity that happens in certain neighborhoods amongst certain demographics, the health issues. All of that stuff is political, and we have to be so proactive and so conscious to fight it. Even when it comes down to the things that you put in your body, you know, it's a political act what you're eating. So you know, you just have to be conscious of where your food's coming from and what you're eating. Honestly, that's the best way to fight the system is eat well.
Yep, exactly. And honestly, like food is a weapon. People don't realize how much of a weapon it is, and so. I feel like our fight is in food, but there's a way to shift the tide, you know, with just the work that we're doing and the programs that we're running. So, yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Radical. I love it. I love it. Mhm. Yeah, it's just changing the whole way I'm seeing things right now. Like I've had some of these ideas in my head, but like seeing them fleshed out and presented like this is just, yeah, I love it.
Oh wow, that's huge. Thank you. That's huge. I feel
It's
like I think about.
It's a brave new world, guys. When your world falls apart, there's a brave new world right on the other side. So
quick, fast, yeah.
And I really like what you said, Kiran, earlier about that, how we are seeing structures completely broken now. And so it is a great opportunity for us to rewrite them, rewrite them so that everyone is included. Rewrite them so that everyone can get access to these things. And so I do hope that that's in 5 years, Polo's Pantry and LIFEKIT won't be around, but everyone gets to eat. That's the goal. So
and I guess this is a question for folks. We keep saying, hey, like jump in, just get out there, get active, get involved. But I feel like we often try and downplay how hard this work can be just on us personally. How do you keep yourself centered? How do you keep yourself grounded and healthy? Who do you rely on to not break down yourself? Because like we've all been through it doing this work. It is really hard, and we all feel very passionate about it. It's easy to put ourselves way at the back of the line, and that doesn't help anyone.
Right. So I actually, it's funny that you asked that, but I literally had to go on, when I moved to LA, I was really in a corporate workaholic, like just very unhealthy mindset. I just thought I had to be like a corporate machine. I went to business school, so I was very geared towards just like working myself to the bone. I did that for years. And that came with a lot of really bad coping mechanisms like heavy drinking. I'm sure we all have been there, not sleeping, just not taking care of myself. And I had to go through a period of just self-care and learning what that really meant. And I know that sounds maybe really cliche or touchy-feely, but honestly, without learning and going through that process, which took years of just learning that I had to like eat well. Eating well was a huge part of that. Really eating healthy, whole natural foods. It's the only way I have the energy to do the thing and the mental clarity to do the things that I need to do. Sleeping, prioritizing those things, and sometimes having to say no or dropping. I had to get comfortable saying no. That was a big thing too. Just you got to say no to things, and also not trying to do everything. Like yesterday, the bodega ran. I wasn't even there. I was supposed to be there, but like, it was, again, one of those self-care things. I was like, I can't work a full day, have a crazy day, and also be there. But there's people that understand that when you when you flow power to other people, they'll help you. And so that's really what it is too, about just trusting your community and your team and the people around you to help you, really. And that's been a long journey. I'll say that's been the hardest part of this whole thing. The LIFEKIT stuff was easy, but like learning how to like just trust other people, trust your community, and prioritize, and just take care of yourself. You can't sacrifice your own sleep, your own skincare routine. You can't sacrifice those things. You can't. You need like 40 skincare products. You do.
Yeah, you do.
Glowing. You gotta glow. You gotta glow.
Agree.
I mean, obviously, me and Vic are really into the hair care tip. Like the two of us, we just talk about that all the time.
Got to.
But honestly, like to add to what Kiran said, and that's really beautiful, where you just basically have to trust the community. For me, honestly, it's teaching other people what I do, like just so that you can rest. Like, everything shouldn't be like housed in here. It's gotta be. I've been doing the work to just kind of get it out of me, so that I could just sort of build a model I can teach to people. That way, and it's gonna keep going, right? Like the work isn't just ours; it's everyone's. So I feel like you have to like teach this to everyone, so that way you get a chance to like have a life. You have a chance to like get sleep. You know what I mean? Get a chance to like not be bothered to have to like jump on a million Zoom calls. Like again, it's just like all of us here know, but it's I think honestly it's also the community as well. I feel like the energy that we have and the support that we have with each other going. Honestly, like I've been getting text messages from like friends tonight. Like, good luck. Like, it's just really sweet. And just like that alone has been just little things.
Mm.
And I love to meditate too. So meditation too is huge for me.
Same here.
Yeah, huge. Going on long walks is huge. And I think really that's it. And drive. I love to drive. I mean, you know, like my whole thing is mobiles. Yeah, I love driving. So
Yeah. No, I think it's a beautiful way to look at things. You know, many hands makes light work.
of
And
course.
we have to get past this idea that organizers or activists are like special, unique people and that there's gatekeeping involved.
Yes.
And really, it's something everyone can do. Every human organizes stuff, be it a tea party for your 4-year-old niece, be it a birthday party, be it an office, you know, like a project management thing that you did.
Yeah.
We have this capability, but we need to share it. And we need to get out of this scarcity mindset that I have to hold this knowledge and it's mine.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if other people can do what I can do, then they're a threat to me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, exactly. Like community over
how we get by.
right?
That's not how we get by.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do want to add too, I'm sure Melissa, you have this experience too, that when you're the leader of an organization or you're prominent and you're really responsible for creating spaces for other people to be able to plug in. And when you do that, you really, the burden of being mentally like well is a lot higher because there's a lot of times, it's been about 5 years since I've been running LifeKit now. And there's been times where I've been so run down from working I used to work a full-time corporate executive job and do this, and I would be so burnt out and it would feel like hard work. It wouldn't feel fun, and it didn't feel like I was coming from a place of love. It was like frustration, and the space I was creating for people, they didn't like it. They didn't like me. They didn't like the energy I was bringing, and I really had to like come to terms with that. And I realized, it's about a lot more than me taking care of myself when you have an organization too, because you're creating a vibe that everyone is relying on to get the work done. And like if it's a day where I don't have my vibe's not right, I like have to get it right. I like have to. I cannot show up, you know.
I agree. I agree.
I'm sure you understand because it puts off your volunteers. People, they're not feeling it either if you're not feeling it. And then the work, it doesn't feel fun. It doesn't feel like it comes from a place of love. And that's essentially what it is. We have to love what we're doing every day.
That's a good segue to talk about like what we do on at LACAN on Sundays. So we got this thing,
which looks really fun. I gotta say, you always look like you're having a blast out there.
It is, like, honestly, like it was really kind of born out of just, I think Pete had like tweeted a video that he did with a team of just like the food scarcity in Skid Row during COVID, at the beginning of COVID. And so I literally just, I think, like DM'd him like, yo, do you need help? And so then from there, just it snowballed into this, where we've been doing Sunday Strong for, I would say, probably like coming to 20 weeks. So it's just been like, but what makes it great is because of like the community has come together. It's like Polos and EIX community and LACAN, but we go there with love and it's so fun. Like literally we have like a bomb ass playlist every Sunday. And like we just dance, like we're obviously like just we're doing like social distancing and all that stuff. Like Hamid from Stop LAPD Spying is there too. Pastor Q is there sometimes emceeing. General Dogon is there. KO, I don't know if you guys know KO. KO is just amazing. His playlists are so good. And Pete's are just awesome too, Monique. So everyone just has this incredible time together, and it's almost like Pete calls it like this cultural gumbo, because we have like myself was Filipino American, my buddy Alex is Korean American, and and it's just like all these different cultural sort of like mix
of melting pot,
and the melting pot, right, of like just of just coming together and just having really a great time during a time where it's just hard for everyone. And so for us to be able to do that for a few hours is huge. And I look forward to it every week. And the biggest thing, like Kiran said, is to also take care of your people. Like I make sure that we're fed too. Like even if we're feeding people, I make sure that we got food for the crew. You know what I mean? Because we got to feed ourselves. We got to make sure that we're nourished too. And so that's the biggest thing, is making sure that crew and your team is strong. Because if you guys are down, there's no way we can do this work at all, or we can do it well. So yeah.
Yeah, this has been an absolutely amazing conversation. You two were both doing amazing work and just amazing human beings. And thank you for taking the time to share this with us. And also to kind of give us that reminder that we get to build this world. I think in the midst of national politics and everything that's going on, people lose sight of the fact that we are the future. We are the people who get to write that, and we get to step into this power. And you are both amazing examples of that. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So much. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Word. Come back soon.
Yes. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Oh, that was fantastic, Vic.
We're all set for the Rev. We're going to change the government. We got some new institutions to bring in. Fucking love it.
Gonna get it all figured out. We're gonna fix this stuff. Vic, thank you so much for showing up again. Always love hosting with you. I'm trying to think about stuff that we got going on. I know there's some stuff happening this weekend that is absolutely escaping my mind because my mind is jelly at the moment. But as always, if you do want something to do before you tune in, you can always show up at the Wednesday Black Lives Matter LA rally at the Hall of Injustice in downtown LA. Now, probably more important than ever, when we see LAPD pulling out all the stops to try and intimidate our communities. Remember, you can always get involved with the Ground Game. Go over to groundgamela.org. Read more stuff at Knocked Out LA. We just dropped an amazing story about Mike Davis, the guy who wrote City of Quartz, which if you want to sit down with a book that's going to take a year off your life and teach you more than you've ever learned about this city, I cannot recommend it enough.
Also, we got 4:30 on the 18th, Tuesday. Long Beach City Council will be talking about the police budget. So we'll be out there in force, in front there, yelling with BLM, LBC, causing some havoc down here in Long Beach. Come on down. It'll be fun.
Hell yeah. All right. Thank you all very much for tuning in this week. We will see you all next week, and love you all. Stay very, very safe out there.
All right. Thanks, Tim. See ya.